What is up, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the 3&D here on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Make sure you hit subscribe below and follow our socials at the 3&D ETB and at the ETB Network. On tonight's episode, we got a jam-packed slate for you guys, as a lot of breaking news has gone on around the NBA and college basketball over the past couple of weeks. There's no new episode last week, but we got the whole Josh Giddey situation, which is absolutely crazy. We'll be going into depth with that. James Dolan resigning on the Board of Governors. A very interesting move. The Zach Lavine trade market, and then we'll go over some college hoops, the AP Top 25, some of the surprises, some of the top college games of the week coming up, and then, as we always do, we'll go over the brand new power rankings for the in the NBA. So I hope everybody's been doing well over the last couple of weeks. The college basketball in season. The college basketball season has tipped off and is getting much more in depth now with everything going on. There was a lot of tournaments this past week. We had the Maui tournament, we had the Cayman Islands tournament, we had the tournament on every island you can imagine pretty much for the Thanksgiving week. And there was a lot of good games throughout the week. And then, of course, the NBA season too. The in-season tournament has been going on rapidly. It's been going on really steadily. It's still a very interesting situation. We'll be going into a lot more into detail on the NBA in-season tournament next week, because that'll be the beginning of the round-robin tournament that's going to take place in Las Vegas. And this week is going to wrap up the rest of the in-season tournament pool play as it is. But, you know, we're still learning everything about that. I think every NBA fan is kind of learning everything about that. And I think even the players are trying to learn about exactly what the in-season tournament is, how it works, and how the whole Las Vegas round is going to go. So first things first, we'll jump into a few topics. So Luka Doncic, injured his finger yesterday during the Mavericks game. He's getting x-rays on it, but there's no imminent timetable just yet. So that's a topic to look out for. There's no real news. Doesn't think that he broke it as of right now, but we'll stay on top of that as that goes down. And then, of course, the big news that's kind of gone on in the NBA over the past week or so is the Josh Giddey situation. So Josh Giddey busted for an underage relationship, apparently. So there's a very weird situation going on right now, but with this entire thing, there's very few details that truly came out about it. Every NBA fan kind of woke up Thanksgiving morning and saw their Twitter accounts mobbed with jokes and all the news about this whole Josh Giddey thing. It was a really, really weird situation. Apparently, he's had a relationship with a girl who is actually 16 years old. And it seems like that she was playing it off as being much older. That's not the actual case. Regardless of that, we're not going to, assume anything, but it's a terrible look. Obviously a really bad look, but people are going back and forth on what exactly is going on. The NBA opened an investigation into it. I don't know exactly what they're going to be able to find, but there's a very thin line because people are bringing up a lot of details about it, especially in Oklahoma, the legal consent age being 16 years old. So if she is 16 years old consenting to it, it's not technically illegal. It's obviously still a very bad look, but that's coming up. Obviously, there's the potential issue of, the two of them been seen in clubs together, and obviously, 16-year-olds should not be in clubs, should not be in bars. So in that situation, is she pretending to be 18 years old? All those details are kind of coming out. And also, she's been kind of going, the young woman in question, I want to say, has been going about it in a very interesting way. Been liking posts on Instagram saying that like Josh Giddey is getting investigated and stuff like that, almost like being recorded, like jokingly saying that they have like a relationship and stuff, almost as if like the entire thing was planned, or she's in somewhat amused by the situation. Regardless of all that, Josh Giddey still ended up practicing with the Oklahoma City Thunder a couple of days ago and played in last night's game. And he played and was introduced to a standing ovation. Well, not necessarily a standing ovation, but a lot of applause in Oklahoma City he got when his name was called, which is very, very interesting. Not something that I thought that many NBA fans would kind of expect. And that's in a situation like that, he's kind of like under fire from some questionable acts that he's, getting questioned about, and ended up getting applauded for it. But regardless of that, Oklahoma City Thunder played last night. They ended up playing against the Philadelphia 76ers. They lost 127 to 123, but Giddey did start in the game and actually had a pretty decent game. He ended up playing 26 minutes, had 10 points, 8 assists, and 7 rebounds, shot 4 of 12 from the field. So he had a pretty okay game with all things considered, but there's a lot of moving parts with it too. There's also the fact that Chet Holmgren deleted all pictures that he has with Josh Giddey on social media. And the two of them have become really good friends this season, with Holmgren kind of playing his rookie year. He was on the team last year, but was hurt and out for the entire season. So playing his rookie year now for the Thunder. Him and Giddey have grown a pretty big relationship, and him deleting all of his pictures on social media was an interesting revelation that NBA fans made. What exactly that means, we'll have to find out. But this entire situation is very, very weird. So those are the details behind it. Once again, there's an investigation open for it. There's no word yet, no more details other than, the stuff that's circulating around social media and stuff like that. In my opinion, I think that for whatever reason, I feel like this is not going to result in a big suspension. It's not going to result in anything like major. For whatever it is, it doesn't seem like it's an issue that the NBA is going to step in and give it a big suspension, mainly because there's too many question marks. And unless there's more shocking details that come out, obviously, that kind of make this like a clear lawsuit or a clear felony, then I really don't think that there's going to be much that ends up happening from it. Maybe Oklahoma City does something internally. Maybe they suspend him. Maybe the NBA suspends him for a short period of time. But besides that, I don't think that anything like crazy is going to happen. A lot of people thinking that he might get suspended for like an entire season, all that kind of stuff. I don't think that that's going to happen, barring any new information they may find that's really bad. But besides that, it doesn't seem like that there's really going to be that much, especially if the truth does come out with the legal age in Oklahoma City and all of that information coming out. And if it was consensual, all that kind of stuff could play big factors into what exactly he ends up getting as a punishment, and if it's even going to be considered illegal. Like, if it's not going to be considered illegal or anything like that, there's probably a good chance that he gets maybe a slap on the wrist, and that's about it. So this was a wild story. I mean, something that nobody was kind of expecting to kind of break. And yeah, I mean, everybody can formulate their own opinion on it right now. We'll stay on top of this as more information comes out. But as of right now, there is only so much information we have on social media, and we'll find out what the NBA investigation kind of digs up, and if he'll end up getting suspended for it, or if anything at all ends up happening from it, because I'm not too convinced that anything is going to happen, to be completely honest with you. So that's the Josh Giddey situation. Jumping over from that, we got another guy who seems to always be in the news, and he's not an NBA player. He's the owner of the New York Knicks, owner of Cablevision, owner of Madison Square Garden, multi-billionaire James Dolan, resigned from the Board of Governors in the NBA for the ownerships. So this was an interesting move. So currently there's a lawsuit going on between the Toronto Raptors and the New York Knicks. The Raptors suggest that the Knicks did some type, to be honest, it's not too basketball based. It's more like money based and some type of is some type of lying that they are accusing the Knicks of doing in trades and all that kind of stuff. And amidst those potential lawsuits that the Raptors are holding against the Knicks, James Dolan ended up stepping down. So this is not a good look on Dolan or even the Knicks. Coming from a diehard Knicks fan, it's not a great look on the Knicks if they are trying to show themselves off as being innocent, because him stepping down definitely raises some concerns, raises some red flags about this entire situation. But regardless, he resigned on the board of governors. And, James Dolan, I think over the last couple of years, we've seen the Knicks become a lot better. And it hasn't been because he has been doing his normal job of meddling into the basketball operations and all that kind of stuff. He's actually been taking a step back for the most part, and has been saying some crazy things over the last few years about like owning sports teams and stuff, and not even being that big into liking owning sports teams and everything. But I mean, James Dolan has always been a guy who has had some crazy opinions, who's been frustrating, especially for Knicks fans and especially for NBA fans to watch own a team. And with the amount of stuff that he always brings to the table, it's definitely very frustrating. But he'll end up resigning from the board of governors, so we'll see what kind of impact that has on the NBA in general and the rest of the league. And jumping over from that, we have the Zach Lavine trade market. So the big guy right now, I mean, James Harden got dealt. We were talking all over the summer about a bunch of big guys who were seeking trades. Most of them got dealt. The big guy now that teams are looking at in a potential trade market is Zach Lavine. So Zach Lavine, obviously the star player for the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls have completely underperformed again this season. And they're in the midst of entering a rebuild. There's no doubt about that. DeMar DeRozan is going to be a free agent after this season. Lonzo Ball has another couple of years left, but is slated to miss his second straight full season. You don't know what you'll ever get from him again. And then Zach Lavine is kind of left over too. Nikola Vucevic was extended. They might be stuck with him for a little while. They extended some of their point guards, but Lavine is in his prime. He's in his mid-20s. And he's going to want to compete. And the question is, where can he compete? He's bounced around from team to team. He was on the Timberwolves for a while. He was on a couple of different teams. He was on the Bulls now, and he really hasn't competed no matter where he goes. And for the majority of the teams he's been on, he's been the go-to player. So he's going to be entering the portion of his career where we see a lot of guys say, okay, maybe I'm a second or third option for a championship team, but I want to win a championship, so let's go do that. And that's, I think, what Lavine is entering right now. He knows that the Bulls are in the midst of a complete rebuild. There's no doubt about that. It seems like Billy Donovan is going to be on his way out, whether it's during this season or after this season. And DeMar DeRozan is going to leave in free agency, and they're going to have to enter a rebuild because they tried to put together a decent core and it just did not work out. They had some good pieces, but it just was not able to amount to very much. And Zach Lavine is the key guy that they can get something back for too. So Levine's getting paid $40 million this season. The only problem is he's under contract for a lot of money over the next few years, and he's getting paid a lot more than a team would ideally want to pay their second or third option. He's getting paid $40 million this year. He's getting paid $43 next year, and $46 the year after. Then he has a $49 million player option for the 26-27 season, which would be, unless he can get a bigger contract on the market, he would definitely opt into that contract. But at the very least, he's got another 2 seasons under contract after this. And the 2 teams that popped up as big potential landing spots for Lavine is the Los Angeles Lakers and the New York Knicks, because they're both teams who are very competitive but need one more piece. The Lakers have had LeBron James had an amazing season in his 21st year in the NBA. He's going to be turning 39 next month, and he's had an absolutely superb season. But Anthony Davis has been up and down and injured, and their depth, they put together this depth of D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura and all these guys, and they ended up making a run at the end of last season and made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals. But they brought back this depth, and it's proving to not be what exactly it was in the second half of last season. And the team kind of, I think, realizes that if they want to compete for a championship, then they need to add another star, because especially with Anthony Davis's inconsistent play and his injuries too, it's going to be difficult to rely on him to be the second star. So Zach Lavine pops up as a big option right there. And he's, the only problem is he's getting paid a lot of money. And the Lakers, as of right now, can't trade D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, or Gabe Vincent, because they re-signed all of those guys, signed those guys. They signed Gabe Vincent this offseason to big deals. And in order to bring on a contract like Zach Lavine, they're going to have to trade a handful of those guys who are getting paid decent money in order for the salaries to work, and all of that. So, but they can't get traded until the mid-season. So as of right now, that's not going to work. I wouldn't be surprised come trade deadline time, though, if the Lakers revisit and try to make a push for a Zach Lavine trade. They'd probably end up having to deal a handful of guys. D'Angelo Russell probably being one of the key pieces, since he's getting paid decent. Hachimura possibly being one. Austin Reeves possibly being one. They're going to have to pay. They have a decent amount of depth, but they're going to have to trade a good amount of their depth if they want to bring Zach Lavine in. And LeBron James as well can opt out and become a free agent this offseason. So they have a lot of interesting salary issues going on right now with the Lakers. They have a bunch of depth guys who are getting paid solid money, and so they can't easily bring in Zach Lavine is the bottom line. And if the Bulls end up trading Lavine, they're not going to want just a load of veterans if they're going to be entering a rebuild. They're going to want young pieces, maybe a Jalen Hood-Schifino from the Lakers, or a third team is going to have to get involved for the Bulls to get some young pieces. And they're going to want some draft picks too. They're going to want probably a couple of first rounders at least, if not more, maybe three, maybe even demand as much as 3 first rounders for Zach Lavine. I wouldn't be surprised about that. They're going to want some first rounders to go along with some young pieces. They're not going to just trade him for D'Angelo Russell and Rui Hachimura and all those guys, because if they're trading Lavine and letting DeRozan walk in free agency, they're not trying to compete right now. They're going to be trying to enter a rebuild. So it'll be interesting for a trade package to get put together for the Lakers and Bulls. And the same thing with the Knicks too. The Knicks are the other team that Zach Lavine is linked with. In order for them to bring on a contract like that, they're rolling right now, and they've got a few guys getting paid some decent money. RJ Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, to some of those guys. But the one guy that they could package if they wanted to, if the Knicks were able to bring in a Zach Lavine's Evan Fournier, because he's getting paid a lot of money, and that could be kind of the money that they swap over. But they'd also probably have to add in some young guys. They'd probably have to throw in Emmanuel quickly, or a Quentin Grimes, or one of those guys, and a bunch of first-round picks. And I still don't even know if the money would work in that situation. They may have to throw in a Mitchell Robinson, or one of these guys who got extended, who are a key part to this team. And to be honest with you, I don't think that Zach Lavine's worth that much for the Knicks. If you were to trade an RJ Barrett or a Mitchell Robinson and a bunch of those guys and a couple of first rounders and Evan Fournier just for Zach Lavine, I don't think that immediately makes you a championship contender at all. I think it's smarter for the Knicks to wait it out and possibly get Donovan Mitchell on the free agent market in a couple of years. Let a couple of these contracts expire, and then go hard after Donovan Mitchell, because I think that that's the game changer for them as well. Because Zach Lavine, I'm not convinced. I don't think you can win a championship with Zach Lavine as your number one. And the Knicks are full of guys that you can't win a championship with them being your number one. Jalen Brunson has turned into a tremendous player, but for a true NBA championship team, he's probably a second option. And Julius Randle and RJ Barrett are probably third options on a championship team. So they're still lacking a first option. Zach Lavine is probably a second or third option on a championship team as well. So I don't think his trade would make sense for the Knicks either. And those are the two teams that have really been linked to him the most. And people think that would be the most sense in that situation. And I don't think that the Knicks or the Lakers would completely make sense because of that. I think that it would be tough for either of them to get it. And then if they were to really trade him, they could trade him to maybe an up and coming team. But the question is, would he want to get traded there? I believe he has a no trade clause in his contract, so he can also choose where he wants to go. But the bottom line is, the Chicago Bulls are going to have a tough time getting rid of Zach Lavine. He's getting paid a lot of money, and this is not something that I think is going to be able to happen during the season this year, and it may have to be revisited next offseason. It's going to take a lot for them to actually get rid of him. So we'll stay tuned with that. They'll keep shopping him for sure, but we'll see if anything actually amounts from that. So jumping over from the NBA, we'll jump into some college basketball for a little bit, and we'll check out this week's AP Top 25. So obviously by the time this episode comes out Monday night, there'll be the fresh AP Top 25 for this week, but we'll be looking at this past week's Top 25 since we didn't have an episode. James Madison jumped up to number 22 in the top 25. And they're now 6-0 on the season. They beat Fresno State and Southern Illinois were their big wins. But they're up to 22, and they might keep rolling. They're still undefeated. They may even jump up another spot this week. Michigan State fell all the way to 21 after being preseason number 4 team in the country, and they lost again this week. They lost to Arizona, which Arizona could very well be the number 2 team in the nation this upcoming week, so they may not lose much ground from that. They may still stay in the top 25, even though they're 3-3. They're at 21 right now. They might end up being 23 or 24 this upcoming week. It'll be interesting to see if Michigan State ends up staying into it. But they fell all the way from 4 to 21 on this week after losing games to James Madison, and they've also lost to Duke and Arizona now. And Kansas at number 1, but Kansas lost this week, so they will not be the number 1 team in the country heading into next week. They lost to Marquette in the Jim Maui Invitational. In a very good game. If you guys were able to see that game on Friday, that was a spectacular game. Not Friday, on Wednesday. I should say the day before Thanksgiving. That was a tremendous game that Marquette ended up coming out on top. Marquette's a tough team. Marquette's a really tough team, and they're going to be locked into the top 5 this upcoming week. But Kansas, now since they're 5-1, they're definitely going to fall out of the number 1 spot. Purdue will most likely jump into the number 1 spot, as they're 6-0 now. They beat Gonzaga, Tennessee, and Marquette, all top teams in the nation. So they have a fantastic resume to start this year. Their non-conference schedule has been absolutely brutal because of playing and winning the Maui Invitational Tournament this year. They've ended up having to play some top-tier competition, and they've played 3 top 10 teams in the nation, Tennessee, Marquette, and Gonzaga, or I should say top 15, top 20 teams in the nation, and have beaten all of them. So they're going to be almost undoubtedly be the number 1 team in the nation this upcoming week. And then Arizona also is 6-0. They beat Michigan State and Duke. It'll be interesting to see if they leapfrog Kansas. Kansas might fall from 1 to 3 this week after their loss, because Arizona could definitely leapfrog them into number 2. But if not, Arizona we should be locked in at number 3 this upcoming week. So that's the AP Top 25. A couple of other teams too that'll be interesting to see if they join the top 25 will be Colorado State. They're undefeated. We'll be going over them in a second as we look at the top college games of the week. And a couple of other teams too that could enter the top 25 to make things interesting. So jumping over from that, we'll check out the top college games of the week for this upcoming week, the week of November 27th. We have a pretty good amount of ranked games this week. The first game being number 10 Miami at number 16 Kentucky, part of the ACC SEC Challenge this upcoming week. We have a couple of challenges going down this week, but the ACC SEC Challenge is what tips off the week. This game is going down Tuesday at 7:30 on ESPN. Miami is ranked number 10 currently in the nation. They're 5-0. They haven't really played anybody competitive, though. They beat NJIT, UCF, Florida International, Georgia, and Kansas State. Kansas State being their best win on their resume right now. But they have a bunch of guys who have had great seasons so far. Wooga Poplar, who's one of their returning forwards, averaging 18 and 6. Matthew Cleveland, who's their transfer from Florida State, is averaging 16.8 points early on. Nigel Pack, who's returning, averaging 16 points. And Norchad Omir, who's their big man, averaging 15.8 points and 9.2 rebounds. He's had a fantastic season so far, too, for Miami. So they're 5-0 to start the season. They'll be taking on Kentucky. And Kentucky's 5-1 to start the season. Their resume, their only loss came to Kansas. So they're ranked number 16 in the nation right now. We'll see what they're ranked in this upcoming week. But they're headlined by their stacked freshman class. And that includes Robert Dillingham, who's averaging 16 points and 5.2 assists so far, and DJ Wagner, who had a great game they're in their last game and is now averaging 14.5 points a game. But they also have Trey Mitchell, who's their transfer from West Virginia, who's averaging 15 and 6, and Antonio Reeves, who's their leading scorer at 19 points a game. And then also on Tuesday, right after Miami, Kentucky, is another matchup in the ACC SEC Challenge. We have unranked Clemson taking on number 17 Alabama Tuesday at 9:30 on ESPN. This is going to be a very interesting game. Clemson could be ranked this week. They're one of the teams that are kind of on the bubble to see if they're going to get ranked. But the Clemson's 5-0 to start the season. They haven't really played anybody too good, though, which is kind of what's been hurting them and why they may not be ranked. They beat Winthrop, UAB, Davidson, Boise State, and Alcorn State. But their star PJ Hall has been fantastic, averaging 21.4 points and 6.8 rebounds. And Joe Girard, who's their transfer from Syracuse, averaging 12.4 points, 3.6 assists. And then Alabama, on the other hand, beat Oregon and lost to Ohio State is their resume right now. They're 5-1. They're currently ranked 17 in the nation, but Mark Sears has been their leading scorer, 20.3 points a game. Aaron Estrada, who was the transfer from Hofstra, has been great with averaging 17, and Grant Nelson, their transfer from South Dakota State, has been awesome. And another guy to look out for, averaging 14 and 7 to start the season. And then on Wednesday, we have another matchup in the ACC SEC Challenge. We have the number 7 ranked Tennessee taking on number 14 North Carolina Wednesday at 7:15 on ESPN. Tennessee is currently ranked 7th in the nation, but they're going to fall without a doubt because they lost twice this week. They lost to two of the best teams in the nation, Purdue and Kansas, who might be 1-2 this week. So they're now 4-2 on the season. But they also beat Syracuse and Wisconsin, were the two big wins. But Tennessee will definitely remain in the top 25, but they won't be ranked as high as 7. Dalton Knecht, who's the transfer, has been their leading scorer at 17.5 points. And then Josiah Jordan-James, averaging 9 and 7 this season, has been their leading senior. And then North Carolina has had a great start to the season. They're ranked 14. They might get even higher. Their biggest win was against Arkansas, but they lost to Villanova. But Villanova also could rejoin the top 25 this week. They got knocked out last week, but they had a couple of big wins, including beating Arkansas. So they're on the brink of rejoining the top 25. RJ Davis averaging 18.2 points. And then Armando Bacot's been fantastic, averaging 15.8 and 11.7 for North Carolina. And then also on Wednesday at the exact same time, we have another matchup in the ACC SEC Challenge, which will be on ESPN2. This is number 12 Texas A&M taking on number 24 Virginia Wednesday at 7:15. Texas A&M has been great this year. They lost to Florida Atlantic. That was their biggest loss, but they beat Penn State and they beat Ohio State, and they'll also be playing Iowa State on Sunday. And Wade Taylor IV has been their leading scorer at 21 points. He was the preseason SEC Player of the Year. And then Virginia is 5-1 to start the season. They just sneaked into the top 25 this week. Their one loss came to Wisconsin, but they beat West Virginia and Florida. This is going to be a big matchup for them. Reese Beekman has been a star senior for them, averaging 11.8 points, 5.8 assists, and 2.8 steals. Ryan Dunn has been a great big man for them, averaging 10-7 with 2.8 steals and 2.5 blocks. Once again, as Virginia always has, they have a dynamic defense. Reese Beekman and Ryan Dunn being two of the best defensive players in the nation. That's what has been leading UVA pretty much to start this season. And they'll be taking on Texas A&M. So that's going to be a really good game. I'm really excited for that one. And then going down also on Wednesday night. Wednesday is jam-packed with games. Wednesday night at 9 o'clock on CBS Sportsnet, we have number 18 ranked Colorado at Colorado State, who I think will probably be ranked this week. So we have two ranked teams playing each other. Colorado State, obviously, in the Mountain West. CBSSN usually covers the Mountain West, so that's why that game's on there. But Colorado is also off to a pretty good start in the Pac-12. They're 4-1 to start the season. They lost to Florida State, but they play Iona on Sunday, so they should be 5-1 heading into that game. KJ Simpson's been their leading scorer at 19 points. And then their two stars, Tristan Da Silva, has been a little bit off to a slow start, averaging 14.8. And Cody Williams, potential lottery pick in this upcoming draft, freshman, has only been averaging 11 and 4.3 to start the year. And then Colorado State has been one of the better mid-majors in the nation to start this season. They're 6-0 now. And they've beat their biggest win came against Creighton, which was a humongous win. That's probably the win that gets them into the top 25. But they also beat Louisiana Tech and Boston College, which are two other good teams. Isaiah Stevens has been their star player, averaging 17.5 points and 7.8 rebounds. And Joel Scott averaging 14.5 and 6.8. And then also going down on Wednesday at 9:15 on ESPN after the Tennessee UNC game, we will have Duke versus Arkansas. Duke is ranked number 9 heading into this week, and Arkansas is ranked 20, but Arkansas will most likely be unranked in this upcoming week. They were ranked 20 this week, and they lost 2 bad games during this week. So they will most likely fall out of the top 25. But this will still be a good game. Duke at Arkansas. It's part of the ACC SEC Challenge that's going to be going on all throughout the week. Duke is off to a 5-1 start. Their only loss coming to Arizona. Their biggest win coming against Michigan State. Kyle Filipowski, who is one of the favorites to be National Player of the Year, averaging 18.8 points and 8 rebounds to start the season. Tyrese Proctor has been their star guard, averaging 13 points and 6 assists so far. And then Arkansas, on the other hand, got off to a good start, but they're now 4-3. They've had a couple of questionable losses. They lost to UNC Greensboro, which was a really bad loss for them, and Memphis, 2 unranked teams they've now lost to. And they also lost to North Carolina, which is a pretty good team, so that's not going to hurt them that much. But they've lost to 2 unranked teams. They were 20 this week in the top 25, so they're almost undoubtedly going to fall out of the top 25. Their leading scorers are Tremont Mark, who's averaging 18.4 points, transfer. He got injured during their last game, and he was rushed to the hospital. He took a hard fall going up for a layup, but everyone says that he's going to be okay. I doubt that he would play in this game on Wednesday unless, a lot were to happen in that kind of situation. And then Khalif Battle as well, averaging 15 points and 3.1 rebounds. He has also been off to a great start for Arkansas. So this will be a good game, even though it's two teams that, even though it's Duke against probably an unranked Arkansas team. And then this upcoming weekend, there's really only 2 games to watch out for, but we got the best game of the week going down Friday night. Friday night at 9 o'clock on ESPN2, we have number 5 ranked UConn taking on number 1 Kansas. So this is the first game of the Big East Big 12 battle. So the ACC SEC Challenge is going to go down during the week. The Big East Big 12 battle is going to tip off this upcoming weekend. And UConn off to a great start. They still have not lost yet since last regular season after winning March Madness last year. They are now 6-0 to start the season. They haven't had too hefty of a schedule. They beat Indiana and they beat Texas. Texas was by far their biggest win. They're also playing New Hampshire on Monday, so they should easily be 7-0 come Friday. before this game, but Cam Spencer's been their leading scorer, 16.2 points. Alex Caravan, returning sophomore, is averaging 16 points, 5.8 rebounds, and Tristan Newton has been fantastic for them, probably their best all-around player, averaging 15.3 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 6.8 assists. And on top of that, for UConn, we also have Kansas, who was ranked number 1 in the nation this week. As I was saying before, they'll probably be ranked 2 or 3 in this upcoming AP Top 25. They lost to Marquette. That was their one big loss. But they've also beat Kentucky and Tennessee so far. And they're playing Eastern Illinois on Tuesday, so they should be 6-1 heading into this game. Hunter Dickinson has been probably the favorite to win National Player of the Year so far in the early season. He's averaged 21.2 points and 12.7 rebounds start the season. And Kevin McCullough has also been fantastic, averaging 18.2 points and 8 rebounds, as well as 5.8 assists. And then the final game of the week to watch out for, Saturday night at 10 o'clock on ESPN, we have number 23 ranked USC taking on number 11 ranked Gonzaga. So USC is another team that could be on the verge of not being ranked this upcoming week. They're ranked 23 this week, but they lost to Oklahoma this week, which is not a good loss. Their other loss came to UC Irvine. So they're 4-2 on the season with 2 bad losses, and they'll probably won't be ranked this upcoming week, but they're 4-2. I mean, obviously they've got some star power, though, leading their team. Boogie Ellis averaging 20.2 points a game, and then Isaiah Collier, who's the potential number 1 overall pick in this upcoming NBA draft, point guard, averaging 18.2 points and 4 assists. And they'll be taking on Gonzaga. Gonzaga has been off to a very solid start. They're 4-1. They lost to Purdue. That was their one loss, but they also beat UCLA and Syracuse, which were 2 other pretty solid wins. Anton Watson has been their star player, averaging 16.6 points and 8 rebounds. And the transfer from Wyoming, Graham Ike, has had a great start to the season, averaging 13.8 points and 8 rebounds. So those are the top college games to watch for the week. Obviously, the headliner being UConn at Kansas on Friday night at 9 o'clock on ESPN2. So definitely take a look at all of these. They're all on ESPN this upcoming week. It's the ACC SEC Challenge, and then the Big East Big 12 battle will be going down this weekend. And now to wrap off the show, as we always do, we'll be taking a look at my NBA Week 6 power rankings. So we missed last week, and there was definitely a lot of changes to the power rankings. I've had the Denver Nuggets ranked at number 1 the entire season so far. They've had a bunch of losses throughout the past few weeks, and they will not be ranked at number 1 anymore. But at number 5, we've got the Philadelphia 76ers. 76ers still playing some solid basketball. They're 11-5 on the season. Joel Embiid is still a front runner to potentially repeat as MVP. Everything since the James Harden trade has seemed to go right for the 76ers, as things have seemed to go wrong for the Clippers. You be the judge if you think that that's much of a surprise. But getting Harden off the team almost kind of skyrocketed the 76ers team. So they're ranked at number 5 this week in my top 5. Ranked at number 4, I got the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets have been ranked at number 1. They're the reigning NBA champs. They've been ranked at number 1 the entire season, but they're 10-6 now. They've lost a few games. Nikola Jokic has still been spectacular, but they've been dealing with injuries too. Jamal Murray is going to be out for a long time. He's going to be out for the next several weeks, so they've definitely been missing him. And then the Nuggets will slot in at number 4. Then number 3, I got the Milwaukee Bucks. So the Bucks have been on a little bit of a surge. They've been starting to get into their own recently. They've won 6 of their last 7. Their only loss in their last 7 games coming to the Boston Celtics this past Wednesday. They'll be taking on the Portland Trailblazers on Sunday. And then this upcoming week, they'll be in Miami on Tuesday, in Chicago on Thursday, and at home against Atlanta on Saturday. They're 11-5 on the season so far. Giannis has been off to a great start, as he normally always is. And Damian Lillard is starting to get his footing underneath. And then number 2, I've been completely neglecting them in my top 5 the entire season, but I can't neglect them anymore. The Minnesota Timberwolves. Timberwolves have been playing some fantastic basketball. They're 11-4 on the season now. And they're only 11-4 because they lost 2 of their last 5. They lost to Sacramento on Friday, and Before that, they had 2 losses for a while, and they're taking on the Memphis Grizzlies on Sunday. Anthony Edwards has been a star. I mean, you can argue that he might be a top 5 MVP player as of right now, averaging 26.7 points, 6 rebounds, and 5.1 assists. Karl Anthony Towns has been able to stay healthy, averaging 22 and 9. And Rudy Gobert has finally looked like his old self after not having a good season last year. He's averaging 2.2 blocks while averaging 12 and 8 as well. This week, they'll be taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder on Tuesday, the Utah Jazz on Thursday, and then they'll be in Charlotte on Saturday. And then at number 1 in the Week 6 power rankings, I've got the Boston Celtics at 12 and 4. So the Celtics, I think, have been the best team in the league. But they've lost 2 of their last 3 to the Charlotte Hornets and the Orlando Magic. Magic have been playing some good basketball. They're just out of my top 5 right now. But they'll also be taking the Atlanta Hawks on Sunday. Jason Tatum's been playing great, averaging 28 points and 9 rebounds, while Porzingis has still been doing great, averaging 19 and 7. This week, they have a little bit of a light schedule before the NBA in-season tournament starts. They'll be taking on Chicago on Tuesday and Philadelphia on Friday, both home games. So that wraps it up for the Week 6 power rankings. Once again, it's the Philadelphia 76ers at 5, Denver Nuggets at 4, Milwaukee Bucks at 3, Minnesota Timberwolves at 2, and Boston Celtics at 1. That's going to do it for another episode of the 3&D. I want to thank everyone for tuning into the Empty the Bench Podcast Network for another episode. Once again, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel and follow the socials at the 3&D ETB. We'll be putting out content all week in case you missed the entire episode, but you can always go back and watch it on the YouTube channel. Hope everyone has a great night, and make sure to like and subscribe to Empty the Bench on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Have a good night, everybody.